Bible Stories, Episode 17, Esther and the Hidden Courage. The story of Esther begins far from Jerusalem, in the land of Persia. Many of the Jewish people were living there, scattered through a great kingdom. The city was full of royal buildings, gates, courtyards, servants, soldiers, and the business of an empire. It was a place where orders could travel quickly, and where the word of a king could change many lives. In that place there was a man named Mordecai. Mordecai was a Jew. He lived in Shushan, the palace city, and he cared for a young woman named Esther. Esther was his cousin, but he had taken her as his own daughter because she had no father or mother. She had grown up under his care, watched over by his wisdom, and loved in the quiet faithfulness of an ordinary home. Esther had another name too. Among her own people she was called Hadassah. There is something gentle and important about that hidden name. Before Esther was known in a palace, before she wore royal robes, before anyone called her queen, she was Hadassah, a daughter of her people, cared for by Mordecai, living under the eye of God in a foreign land. Then the king of Persia sought a new queen. Many young women were brought into the king's house, and Esther was among them. The palace was beautiful, but it was not simple. It was not a place where Esther controlled her own story. She was taken into a world of rules and silence, watched by people with power, prepared for a future she had not chosen for herself. Yet even there, Esther found favor. The keeper of the women treated her kindly. She was given what she needed. She listened carefully. She carried herself with wisdom and grace. And Mordecai, who loved her as a daughter, walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what would become of her. Esther did not reveal her people or her kindred. Mordecai had charged her not to tell it, so there was a secret in the palace. Behind the royal preparations, behind the quiet steps, behind the name everyone knew, Esther carried a hidden identity. She was one of the Jewish people. She belonged to the people of the covenant, the people whose God had led them, corrected them, preserved them, and promised not to forget them. The king loved Esther above all the women. He set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen. The palace saw beauty. The kingdom saw a new queen. But Mordecai saw something more. He saw the young woman he had raised placed in a position that no one in their household could have planned. At first, perhaps, the reason was hidden. But God often works in hidden ways before the hour becomes clear. In the same kingdom, another man rose to power. His name was Haman. The king promoted Haman and set him above many princes. Servants at the king's gate bowed before him because the king had commanded it. Haman enjoyed honor. He noticed when people lowered themselves before him. He noticed the shape of respect. His heart grew proud around the power he had been given. But Mordecai would not bow. Day after day, the servants at the gate asked him why he disobeyed the king's command. Mordecai had told them he was a Jew. He would not give Haman the kind of honor Haman wanted from him. Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or do him reverence, and Haman was full of wrath. His anger did not remain small. It did not stop with one man. When Haman learned the people of Mordecai, he did not only seek to hurt Mordecai. He sought to destroy all the Jews throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. That is what pride and hatred can do when they are allowed to grow. A wounded pride became a cruel plan. A private anger became a decree against a people. Haman spoke to the king in careful words. He said there was a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of the kingdom. He said their laws were different. He said it was not for the king's profit to let them live as they were. He offered silver for the king's treasuries, and he asked that the people be destroyed. The king gave Haman authority. Letters were written. Messengers carried them out. The decree went into every province, sealed with the king's ring. It named a day of fear and sorrow for the Jewish people. The city of Shushan was troubled. In the palace, Esther was still queen. But outside the palace, a shadow had fallen over her people. When Mordecai learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes. He went out into the middle of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry. He came even before the king's gate, though no one clothed in sackcloth could enter in. Across the provinces, wherever the king's command and decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews. There was fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. This was not a small sadness. It was grief spread across a people. It was fear carried from house to house. It was the sound of parents, children, old men, young women, neighbors, and families, hearing that a day had been set against them. Esther's maids and chamberlains came and told her about Mordecai. The queen was exceedingly grieved. She sent clothes to Mordecai, hoping he might put off his sackcloth, but he would not receive them. So Esther called for Hathach, one of the king's chamberlains appointed to attend her, and sent him to Mordecai to learn what this was and why it was. Mordecai told him everything. He told of the money Haman had promised. He gave him a copy of the writing of the decree. He asked that it be shown to Esther, and that she be charged to go in unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. Her people. Those words mattered. The secret Esther had carried could not remain hidden forever without cost. The danger outside the palace was connected to the identity inside her heart. Mordecai was asking Esther to step into the very thing she had kept quiet. Hathach returned and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Esther answered with the truth of her danger. Everyone knew that any man or woman who came unto the king into the inner court, who was not called, had one law, to be put to death, unless the king held out the golden scepter, that the person might live. Esther had not been called to come in unto the king for 30 days. This was not a simple request. It was not only a difficult conversation. It could cost Esther her life. The palace that looked safe from the outside had its own danger within. A crown did not make Esther untouchable. Fine robes did not remove fear. Being near the king did not mean she could approach him whenever she wished. Esther was not refusing because she did not care. She was afraid because the danger was real. Mordecai sent back his answer. The direct passage gives the heart of the story. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, "Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther 4:13-14, KJV. Mordecai did not pretend the danger was small. He did not tell Esther that courage would feel easy. He did not say that the palace would protect her if she stayed silent. He reminded her that she was part of her people. He believed deliverance would arise because the people of God were not forgotten. But he also saw the question that had been hidden beneath Esther's whole story. Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Those words did not make Esther fearless. They made the moment clear. All the hidden years, Mordecai's care, Esther's favor, the crown placed on her head, the secret kept until now, the palace door, the king's court, the danger at the gate, the grief of her people, the timing of it all. Perhaps Esther had not been placed there for comfort. Perhaps she had been placed there for courage. Perhaps the hidden path had led to this visible hour. Esther sent back her answer. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, she said, and fast ye for me. Neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. There was courage in those words, but it was not loud courage. It was not careless courage. It was not the courage of someone who thought nothing could hurt her. It was hidden courage, rising quietly in a fearful heart. Esther knew the law. She knew the risk. She knew that if the golden scepter was not held out, her life could end. Yet she chose to act for her people. Before she went, she asked them to fast. She did not step forward as if she were enough in herself. She asked her people to humble themselves with her. She and her maidens would fast too. In a book where the name of God is hidden, this fasting speaks with quiet reverence. Esther's courage was not alone. It was surrounded by the lowly seeking of help. Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. The hidden queen had answered. The hour had come. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal apparel. She stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. The king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate. It is a still moment in the story. No storm rises like in Jonah. No giant shouts like in the valley of David. No sea stands before her like at the Red Sea. There is only a woman standing where she has not been called, carrying the life of her people in a trembling act of courage. The king saw Esther the queen standing in the court. She obtained favor in his sight. The king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Life was given to her in that moment. The door did not close. The king did not command her death. The scepter was extended, and Esther stood alive before him. The king asked her what she wished. "What is thy request?" he said. "It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom." Esther did not speak everything at once. Her courage was patient. She invited the king and Haman to come that day to a banquet she had prepared. At the banquet, when the king asked again for her petition and request, Esther still waited. She invited them to another banquet on the next day, and said she would do tomorrow as the king had said. This was not weakness, it was wisdom. Esther was moving carefully. She had crossed the dangerous threshold, but she still needed the right moment. Courage does not always rush. Sometimes courage waits, speaks gently, prepares a table, and trusts that the truth will have its hour. Haman left that first banquet joyful and glad of heart. He thought honor was gathering around him. He did not understand that the hidden courage of Esther was already moving against his hidden evil. At the second banquet, the king asked Esther again, "What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom." Then Esther spoke. "If I have found favor in thy sight, O king," she said, "and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request." My life, my people. The hidden thing was now spoken. Esther did not ask first for riches, honor, comfort, or revenge. She asked for life. She asked for the life of her people. She told the king that they had been sold, she and her people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. The king asked who had dared to do this. Esther answered with clear courage, "The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman." Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. The proud man who had planned destruction now stood exposed. The secret hatred was brought into the light. The queen he had sat with at the banquet was one of the very people he had sought to destroy. The story does not need to dwell on the harsh details of what followed. Haman's plan failed. The evil he had prepared came back upon him. The Lord had not been named in the palace, but providence had been at work in every hidden turn. Esther had been placed. Mordecai had watched. The decree had been uncovered. The fasting had been gathered. The scepter had been extended. The banquet had been prepared. The moment had come. The truth had been spoken. Hidden courage had stepped into the light. After Haman was brought down, the danger was not yet fully past. The earlier decree had gone out in the king's name, and by the laws of Persia it could not simply be erased. But the king gave authority to Esther and Mordecai to write another decree. Mordecai, once clothed in sackcloth at the gate, was now clothed in royal apparel. The king's ring was given into his hand. Letters went out again. This time the message gave the Jewish people the right to stand for their lives. The messengers rode swiftly. The decree travelled through the provinces. And where there had been mourning, hope began to rise. Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal clothing of blue and white, with a great crown of gold and a garment of fine linen and purple. The city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. In every province and in every city, wherever the king's commandment and decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. Sorrow was turning. The day that had been full of fear was no longer only a day of dread. The people who had wept and fasted were given hope. The hidden courage of one young queen had become part of the deliverance of many lives. Later, these days would be remembered by the people. They would remember how sorrow was turned to joy and mourning into a good day. But before the feasting, before the remembering, before the joy spread through the provinces, there had been a quiet choice in Esther's heart. She could not do everything. She could not control the king. She could not rewrite the law by herself. She could not make Haman kind. She could not guarantee that the scepter would be held out. But she could choose faithfulness in the place where she had been put. She could fast, she could go, she could speak, and she did. Esther and the Hidden Courage is a story about the work of God when His hand is not announced loudly, but is present all the same. The book of Esther does not speak the name of God in the direct way many other Bible stories do. Yet the story is full of His quiet providence. A Jewish girl without father or mother is cared for by Mordecai. She is brought to the palace. She finds favor. She becomes queen. Her identity remains hidden until the hour when it must be spoken. Mordecai learns of the danger. Esther hears the call. The people fast. The king receives her. The proud enemy is exposed. The decree of sorrow is answered by a decree of hope. Nothing is wasted. No hidden thing is hidden from God. There is comfort in this story for those who feel small in a place too large for them. Esther was one young woman in a vast empire. She did not hold armies in her hand. She did not begin with public power. For much of the story she was silent about who she was. Yet at the right time, in the right place, she was called to courage. There is comfort here for those who are afraid. Esther was not brave because the danger disappeared. She was brave because the danger was real, and she still chose the faithful thing. She counted the cost. She asked her people to fast. She stepped into the inner court, not knowing whether the scepter would be held out. Courage is not always a loud feeling. Sometimes courage is a quiet step. Sometimes it is a trembling prayer. Sometimes it is telling the truth after a long silence. Sometimes it is standing for others when staying hidden would feel safer. Esther did not save her people by pride. She did not boast. She did not rush. She moved with humility, wisdom, patience, and courage. And the Lord, whose name is hidden in the book, was not absent from the story. He was not absent from Mordecai's mourning. He was not absent from Esther's fasting. He was not absent from the dangerous walk into the king's court. He was not absent from the banquet table. He was not absent when Haman's plan was exposed. He was not absent when sorrow turned toward joy. The God who sees the hidden places can also use hidden courage. He sees the child no one notices. He sees the young person carrying a quiet fear. He sees the family that feels small under a large trouble. He sees the moment when someone must tell the truth, ask for help, or stand for what is right. And he is able to place his people where their faithfulness matters. Mordecai's words still rest over the story. Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Not every moment is Esther's moment. Not every person stands in a palace. But every life is seen by God. Every quiet duty matters before him. Every hidden act of faithfulness is known. And when the time comes to do what is right, the Lord can give courage that is deeper than fear. Esther's courage began hidden in a foreign city, hidden under another name, hidden behind palace walls, hidden in fasting before action, hidden in the pause before she spoke. But when the moment came, that hidden courage helped turn mourning toward gladness. The people were not forgotten. The enemy did not have the last word. The decree of death was answered by a way of life, and the story that began with a hidden identity ended with remembered joy. So we may rest tonight with this gentle truth. God sees what is hidden. He knows where he has placed his children. He can give courage for the moment before us. Not careless courage, not proud courage, but quiet courage held in his providence. The same Lord who watched over Esther in the palace watches over his people still. He is near in the unseen places. He is wise in the timing we do not yet understand. He is able to turn sorrow toward joy, and he can use hidden courage, offered in faithfulness, for such a time as this.